Hi and welcome to this week's Lockdown Lads. It's going to be a great one. We've got a brilliant lot of people. I'm going to introduce them now. First of all, we have DIY expert, a great friend of mine, an old friend. We've known each other since the Bible was written. That's how long we've known each other. He's a super chef, so make sure you look at his Instagram. This man's life, if it were a book, it would be a page turner. Yes, it's Phil Turner. Hi, Phil.
No, all right.
Next, now he's not just...
Sorry, but I'm left
Pretty-
in the... Sorry, go on, carry on. I want that.
It's all right, babe. We're going to talk soon. He's not just a pretty face. He's a top model. He's an influencer. He's a Love Island alumni. It's Paul Knops. Please welcome him, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Hello, guys. How are you?
We're all good, thank you. And last but not least, this guy used to walk the walk of shame. Then he got put into Hull's Hall of Fame. And let's hope now he's in Hollywood, he'll actually get a star on the Walk of Fame. You never know. Things could happen here. He's live from Los Angeles. It's the brilliant Andy Newton-Lee. Hi, Andy.
Thank you, Nick. Great introduction. Thank you. You are all welcome.
We're all welcome on your show. It's great to see that you got a haircut, Andy, but you didn't get your beard shaved, which is a bit of a pity.
The beard's staying, guys. It's part of the new reinvention. So, yeah.
What, as a Marvel character?
I don't know yet. It could go so many ways. Let's just play this out and see how it goes. A bit like COVID-19.
Okay. Well, listen, guys, at the top of the show, we always do something which is about something that's relevant at the moment. As you probably have seen that around about 70% of people are actually claiming unemployment benefits. And it looks like, you know, the age group between around about 18 to 28 is actually probably not going to have a job. And all of us are worried because, you know, I work in events and PR and, you know, go out a lot, and that's part of my job, and that's stopped. I want to ask you, all of you, actually, how that's affected. So, Paul, obviously being a model, I've seen a lot of people doing self-shooting, etc. As an influencer, how has it affected you from an employment point of view?
Well, in terms of influencing, I mean, my influencing on social media, I try not to do too many sort of paid posts because I want to keep it as authentic as possible. But obviously, because of this, it has stunted it massively. Companies aren't getting stuff out to you as much, and you kind of have to work different aspects of it in order what's going to be current now, what people are going to be shopping for, because a lot of people aren't shopping for like the normal stuff. I mean, fashion, really, any people going to have that much money to be shopping for clothes? Probably not. So you kind of have to work a different aspect of what you would normally do. But yeah, I mean, it's taken a massive hit. I mean, modeling's taken a massive hit, but social media has kind of ruined the whole modelling industry anyway. But
They're all models on social media. What are you talking about?
well, that's what I mean. Like,
That's the problem.
Everyone's a model now. I think the whole model. I mean, the modelling industry has changed so much that it's just not the way it used to be, and everyone is a model. And I kind of think that the word model just doesn't really hold any value anymore. But you know, saying that, it's really difficult now. You know, I think if you're an influencer, and also every single person is trying to do the same thing as you are, so you have to have a different angle on it. So working from home, you know, you kind of want to keep it fun, fresh. People are like involved in what you're doing, and that's the hardest thing to do. I mean, if you're at home, you know, there's only so much kind of entertaining that you can do unless you're doing this TikTok and that kind of thing, which I haven't really been doing.
But what do you I mean, obviously, I live next door to a couple of photographers, and they're like, you know, their whole sort of career has got, you know, they're big fashion photographers, and they're thinking, will that happen? You know, the big shoots, the fantastic editorials. You see magazine subscriptions going down. People aren't doing anything anymore. It's going to change everything, don't you think, Paul?
I mean, massively. Well, obviously, no one knows when this is going to end, and I think you kind of, like every industry, when there's something that comes along, you have to kind of adapt to it. And I think this is just another one of those adaptations. I think we have to change the way we're going to look at things, or the way we're going to advertise things. And at the moment, the way to only advertise stuff is really through social media or the internet. And going back to the days of having the big shoots, I mean, they're far and few between now anyway. You know, you don't really have to do things with big production. You only need a camera. You need someone who can do editing in a half decent way, and you can produce really good content. So those ideas of having the big production, they're just not really about anymore. You know, when I was doing modeling full time, like years ago, you would turn up to a set and it was amazing. You'd have You'd get there in the morning, you'd have like a nice breakfast laid out for you, you'd have like runners around you, directors and all the rest of it, and you'd be in a nice big studio. And then that's changed now, you know, and no one's got any budget. Well, no one says they've got any budget. I think people
They're hoarding it all. That's what they're
yeah,
doing.
that's what I mean. Yeah,
Well, you're okay, Phil, because you basically live with a hairstylist and a makeup artist. So any of your influencer shoots that you do, they're going to be perfect. But for you, obviously, you've got a property business. You know, how has this affected your business?
Well, from as soon as me and Gary, both of us got ill, sort of early March.
Okay.
So literally was in bed for about 2 weeks. Then our age didn't help, so it took us about another bloody 3 weeks to get over it. So my business just got put on hold, because equally my clients who have got decent houses in London went to live in the country. So jobs got put on hold, so I literally couldn't do anything. So I've ended up just having practically nearly 3 months off, because what else can you do? I've got manufacturers furloughed their staff, other places closed down, so there was no way of going forward with it. So hopefully now it's all starting to creep back, and we're all starting hopefully to be let out further, maybe get a bit closer than 2 meters, which I think we should be by now. It should, fingers crossed, start coming back together. But obviously it's not going to be the same, and it will take a while to get back into it, but only time will tell on a lot of this, definitely.
Yeah, I think, you know, as well, when you talk about, you know, obviously our industries, but also you look at people who have like restaurants that have been around for years, and suddenly they don't know how they're going to survive because they'll have lesser tables and, you know, all those different restrictions. It's a real shame when you see, especially local businesses who have no idea where they're going to go.
I was talking to friends of mine that work in the restaurant business and industry, and they're saying that they're going to end up taking tables out for now, but then that brings less revenue in because it's less heads. So the government are literally going to keep having to feed them money to help them stay open. If they don't, they're going to close. And they can't do that because then they're getting no rentals from, you know, property, anything. So that brings the economy down even further.
It's a real dilemma.
It's going to cost the government a lot of money.
Definitely. And then in the end, we're going to have to pay for it with taxes over the next few years. How about you, Andy? What's it like for you work-wise?
Honestly, I changed my currency and took it away from monetary exchange a while ago. And I've got people that used to work for me now coming back on board. I've got to a point with money where it's totally neutral, but that's a privilege for me because I did all the work in the first 37 and a half years of my life. So, you know, a lot of people are exactly where they're supposed to be. And I'm trying to figure out a way that I can sort of maneuver my past business experience and sort of bring it back to center, to evolve it and keep things going, keep things moving. It's a great time to be creative. You know, we're all creatives in this group. Paul's a creative, Phil's a creative, and you're a creative, and we've all come together to make this fantastic project. What I do want to say is that if Paul Knops is worried about his future, I'd love to see him get a job in Asda. I will join him as well. I will join Paul Knops in Asda supermarket, and we'll go for it, mate.
You have to evolve, and if that's the only way that you can make revenue for yourself, then so be it. There's nothing wrong with that, you know.
Nothing wrong with it. Lots of people are having to do that now at the moment, and I think, you know, actually, as they say, people who work in supermarkets are in the front line at the moment, and I think, you know, what they're doing is fantastic. And when you actually go into this in there, you have to think they acted so fast to work out how people could still buy food safely and effectively. So
I think you take a different appreciation towards people with this. I think there's still a lot of hostility around. I think because of this, you know, as soon as you become any more than 2 meters away from someone, you know, people are like, back off, stay away from me, and that kind of thing. And there is a bit of tension in the air. But on the flip side of it, there is a nice side where you do see the people that are working in the front line, and you actually take note for all the people that are working in the supermarkets or delivery guys. You know, you're actually a lot more appreciative of them. So you kind of actually are opening your eyes a little bit more. And again, you know, we go about our daily lives kind of, you know, you get up and just go to your 9 to 5 job or whatever, and you don't actually take it seriously. And I think this is actually a massive wake-up call for everyone. And for you to kind of realise that maybe it's time to do something else. Maybe it's time to actually do that thing that you never have done before and become a little bit more creative. Do something that inspired you.
Oh, I don't know. It's made me.
Come on,
It made
Phil.
me
Come on,
more
tell
lazy.
us.
No, you know me. It basically, this whole time, it has made me appreciate friends and family, etc., etc., and it's made me contact people more, which has been actually brilliant. On the other side, it's made me more lazy. I spend a lot of time on the sofa. I can't. The amount of Netflix series I've now got through is ridiculous. I've eaten more. There's a stone on below these boobs, these moobs, because all I've done is cook. So the moobs were always there, Paul, but now they've turned into proper boobs. So, you know, it definitely coming out of it, it will change a lot of us, and it will. But I think more appreciative, you know, of everything, hopefully.
I think also, I mean, I've talked to my neighbours for the first time. I lived in my flat for like 4 years. I never really spoke to them apart from, you know, in the lobby. And now actually they're friends. We see if we're okay, if they need anything. And I think that sort of idea of, just as Paul says, just being a little bit kinder. And as you say, Phil, just calling up somebody you haven't called up for a while is actually making us think a little bit more and consider our environment and just people in general.
Yeah. I think, sorry, strangely out of all this, how awful it's been and, you know, people dying, everything's been quite traumatic for a lot of people. Business is going, like we're saying, financially for people. But on the other side of it has, you know, human nature, hopefully, is bringing people more together. So coming out of it, it could, you know, I don't like to say things are for the best, whatever, but things happen for a reason all the time.
Yeah, definitely. So, Andy, what do you think?
Well, I just think, you know, we've been given a free pass to be creative, right? We've been given a free pass and we've got to use it. So, again, we've discussed this on the last show. It's day by day. It's month by month. We don't need to be planning for this long-term future because you know what? We can't at the moment.
No.
So we're pulling our resources and we have to put people before money. And I think what this experience is going to do, it's going to be a survival of the fittest for lots of us in so many ways, you know. And the people that are in survival mode first, they're going to be the ones that go to the bottom of the chain, because this can't be a selfish exercise. It's got to be a thing that brings us together, and that's how I feel anyway. And I think that's the same for everybody, for all of us. But as we get into this 8-week state of, oh well, lockdown's not going to be full lockdown. From the little news media that I'm tapping into and tapping out of, it seems like the world is making up their own rules at the moment. And if I was an ordinary person, like when I say ordinary, somebody that has, you know, worked my whole life, had a family, had children, and I suddenly started paying attention to all this, I would be a bit confused. So that's where we're at, guys. And I think it's important that we just deliver this message of, you know, we're taking it day by day. We've all lost things. What are things at the end of the day? They're just things. You know, we could make this a reinvention cycle. I mean, you know, people might say, I can say this from my mansion in Malibu or my pool or whatever you want to call it, but it's a time to be creative, and that's it, really.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, that actually takes me on to our next topic, which is basically how you're actually coping in lockdown. And I think, you know, if you're in a relationship, it's quite crazy. And I live in a lovely apartment, but it's 2 rooms. And so me and my husband spend time apart from each other, and we've got a sofa bed, and I basically pretend that it's a hotel because it's the only way I can go and stay in the hotel. I'm like, babe, I'm off to the hotel tonight and you're not coming in, because it's the only way, because this is such an artificial kind of way of living with people. But I suppose in many ways, Paul, you're probably the best person to ask about this, because you've been in a situation which is kind of artificial, where you've been kind of locked down with people. How are you coping with it, and what's your coping mechanism to get out that boredom or etc.?
I think in comparison to, I mean, I know you're talking about Love Island, but in comparison to that, I mean, there is no comparison really. You know, that was like an artificial experience, but we had a swimming pool, we had everything done for us. We also knew that when we came out of there, that it was, things were going to be on a plate for us, so to speak. And we had to go and get it. But this is a completely different situation. I think I know that I'm not safe. I also knew that money was stopping coming in, and I had to be really serious with what I was going to do and the actions that I was going to take. I actually had it, so I've already had COVID.
Okay.
So I had
So
it.
you and Phil have both had it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I did the test. Did the antibody test.
Okay.
So I've had it. So I had to stay on my own I was actually 3 weeks. I had it and then did like another 2 weeks after that because it was all up in the air. And honestly, I mean, I was driving myself crazy. I was trying to be productive as possible, but sometimes, you know, when you're at home, you go through the motions. You lay on the sofa, you do exactly what Phil said.
Eat.
You do a series, and before you know it, you've lost a couple of days on TV, and then you think, I'm not being productive, and then you get inside your own head. You know, I can't sit there and say that I'm any different from anyone else because I'm not. I've struggled so much in my own way. Before this, I was super fit. I just did the men's fitness cover. I was in great shape, and I've not done any upper body work since we've started this now. But, you know, I think you have to do things every day in order to keep your mind fresh in some way or another, whether it be some sort of schedule, routine, whatever it is. And I've been doing that. I've been going out for runs, but it's so hard. And I think as well, you know, you're battled with watching the news, and that's nothing but tragedy. You know, you're battling your own mind. Unfortunately, when you spend so much time on your own, you get inside your own head. So it's trying to keep it fresh, and I've tried to do that as much as I can. You know, I've been going to my girlfriend's, and you know, we've done it, but it must be hard for people because we both live in a 1-bed apartment. So I mean, the amount of arguments, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of breakups.
Yeah, same here.
How are you guys getting on, Phil and Gary? How's that going?
It was, like I say, we were quite ill in the beginning. And then after that, friends, because we got 3 dogs, didn't we? So it was quite difficult looking after them, not feeling like you can do anything. Because we were, honestly, we must have had it. We've not had a test. But for the feelings of it and everything else, it must have been it.
But you've not had any taste anyway, Phil, so you never know.
I definitely got a sense of smell. I can smell it now. No, but our friends, luckily, started dropping us food parcels off because we couldn't do anything.
Good.
They come and took the dogs. Literally took the dogs from the back gate. So we had a week of recovering with no dogs. Yeah. Then they came back, and then slowly but surely we got our energy back. Luckily, we've got them, so it took us out every day, long walks. Slightly went over the hour, I've got to say, but you know, had to be done. Recouping, and then cooking, baking, looking at Delia's recipe books and all that old.
The baking that's giving you the belly.
There you go. The bacon, the wine every evening.
The wine, for me, it's the wine. I mean, I've drunk so much.
Yeah, mine was creeping up and up. This was a squash, by the way. So there's no wine in the house. But I might have to nip out.
Until Deliveroo comes.
I know. I'll nip out. I'll nip to my neighbour where we have over the fence drinks. So
love that.
It's happening.
But how about you, Andy?
We got on all right, me and Gary.
Good. That's good, though. And I think it is hard in any relationship to spend that much time. You guys go out all the time. You're very sociable. You have dinners and drink and everything. And then suddenly to be stuck in a house together, and especially when you're ill as well together, must have been really difficult.
We literally woke up and thought, what should we do for lunch? So I'd spend an hour making lunch. Then I'll be planning dinner. So that's why our life revolves around food.
Yeah.
So I'm starting dinner at 3:34, open a bottle of wine. Open another bottle of wine. Don't judge me, Paul. But what can you do?
Well, I saw my neighbour actually about 3 weeks ago, and she said to me, will you get my my lunch for me? And I said, what do you want? She said 2 bottles of cava and a tomato soup. So there you go. One about 5 a day.
That's what's happened. Yeah, the drinks industry has done all right.
Yeah, exactly. How about you, Andy? What's your coping mechanism?
Sending everybody insane.
You do that every day, mate.
That's been the same forever, so that's not changed.
Stop it, guys. Listen, right. I've been socially isolating for about 2 years now. I get up, I do 3 hours of yoga a day, I go to cryotherapy. I needed to change everything because my old life wasn't working for me. And I guarantee a lot of people's old life wasn't working for them. So I've just embraced this experience, and, you know, I see this as extra time on my sentence, right? It's extra time. I'm doing it in luxury, which I think I deserve. I'm not going to apologise for any of it. I deserve the whole
I'm
experience.
sure Hull misses you, so you better get back when the
Listen,
flight's
I am so homesick today. I've got all this, right? But I want to see my mum. My sister's having a baby. Like, this is hitting everybody on so many levels. But whatever, guys.
We've got better weather than you at the moment, I've got to say.
I know, we've got amazing weather.
Don't even start, because I don't want to get into a realm of being one of those people that travels during this. But at some point, when we know what's going on, I may travel, and I may just. I'm not going to say people are making their own rules up, but just like with a lot of things, there's a human logic which is going to override what Trump says and what Boris says. And I'm not going to say anything at this stage. People can figure that out for themselves, because the president here yesterday is promoting a drug. I can't even pronounce it. What's it called?
Hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah. He said to a nation of people that voted him in that are all unconscious because they voted a reality TV star, and that's how polarized we are by reality television. You know, and he hasn't come out of parody mode. He's carried on going into parody mode, and it's just
drinking bleach the last time, so you know. At least
well, bleach. I wouldn't recommend that. You know, I wouldn't recommend bleach. I wouldn't recommend the hydroxy thing. I wouldn't recommend any of it. I mean, I don't really know what Mr. Trump's thinking, but you know what? He invited me in this country, and I'm not going to slag Mr. Trump off. That's
hydroxychloroquine. That's what it's called.
Oh, there you go.
Right. There you go.
Easy for you to say.
So I know exactly. Without a drink. There's a few new words I've learned. Furlough. That's the new word. I never thought I'd ever learn that in my life. But listen, I mean, one of the things that this week it's actually Mental Health Awareness Week, and Paul's have touched on that. Then that what we are doing is we're finding, and we're becoming quite introverted and thinking about stuff in a very different way. And you know, I'm pretty up all the time, but I have found myself in this experience going into quite deep, dark sort of rabbit holes. And I think I think everybody must be going through it, because I said to somebody recently, we're grieving in a really weird way. We're grieving a life that we had, and we don't know what's coming next. And we're so programmed to be forward planners. So, I mean, Phil, how do you feel? Because you're pretty grounded, but it must have got to you as well in that way.
Oh, absolutely. As I say, me and Gary have got on generally fine most of the time, because we've always spent practically all of our life together for 28 years.
Yeah.
So in a way, it wasn't changed that much, but it was just that bit of not being able to go out and just see friends for one evening. And then it's like one morning you can wake up and you're like, what should we do today? Should we plan something? What can you plan? There's nothing to do. I know I could sit and read a book, but I don't read books.
You guys are social beasts, aren't you, Phil?
Yeah. Well, apart from you, I don't know. You do quite well, or you did.
That's the
did in your heyday. How about you, Paul?
Andy, I know you're not a recluse.
How about you, Paul? How do you feel about it? Because it's hard for your mental health, and just to actually just keep every day going normally.
I had a very up and down year last year, which for loads of reasons, and I did a few mental health things where I'd go and talk about it, and I was very open to the fact that I went up and down in depression or whatever it was. You know, I wasn't diagnosed with it, but you're kind of unsure about it. And I said to myself at the beginning of this year, I wouldn't let myself get in a hole like that. I would do everything that I could and put everything in place to not let that happen again. You know, you learn from your mistakes, and I think this is one of those times where you have to really take it a learning. You have to learn from it in the best way you can, and it's hard. But it's hard to do. I think when you're stuck on your own, you end up falling into your own thoughts, and then you end up in pretty dark places. And I'm fortunate, you know, I've got a nice place. I've been able to pay for my rent, and in those aspects it's been fine, and food. But I know that there's a lot of people that haven't been able to do that, and I can only think how horrible it must be, and that it just causes. I mean, mental health must be astronomical at the moment.
I think there's a lot of people are talking about that at the moment with regards to things like domestic violence. Obviously, there's huge increase in that.
Yeah.
And then obviously with regards, as you say, mental health, you know, because especially for guys, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to come up with this, is it hopefully it's an outlet for people to watch us, and we're all in this same experience together, because it's not, most people are out wanting to do sports all the time, or wanting to go for dates, or whatever. Andy just wants to hang out with his pool boy, and we just can't do any of that.
Shut up, Nick.
Sorry.
I mean, I've tried to do it the best way I can. Like if I've gone out and done fitness, I try to relate to people in the best way. I think sometimes people might look up to me, social influencer, and think, oh, he's got everything, or like he's always fit. And I'll go out and I'll go for a run, and I'll say, look, listen, I've just been out for a run. It's taken me all day to do it. I can't be bothered to do it. I'm much like you. Don't look at me and think that you're any different. I'm no different to you. I find everything is as difficult as the next person, or as easy. I try to relate to people as much as possible. I think to try and live this lifestyle where people look up to you but think you're untouchable, I think it's stupid now. People are like bored of it.
But it was good. Like I looked at one of your posts, I think it was a couple of days ago, where you were saying you weren't in shape, and it was a really good, it was kind of, it made you go, okay, well, that's just somebody who's being honest about how he's feeling. It's hard work to look like a cover model, and that kind of thing is so much more relatable than people that just put this perfect image of themselves constantly on social media.
This bit with social influencing at the moment is, you look at when you go on Instagram, when do you ever come off Instagram going, I've got the best life, I feel great about myself? It's very rare. So when you look at all these people, you see it. I mean, I say it all the time. There's a lot of these fitness people that they take pictures, and they will take 100 pictures to get the best picture and then post that. It's not realistic, and it doesn't make people feel good. So I think if you say that and say, like, I worked really hard for this, or I've taken 50 pictures to get the best one, I think people look at you and respect you a little bit more.
That's me. What are you talking about?
You're always camera ready, Phil. Always camera ready. But I do think it's interesting, that whole thing with regards to at the moment, it's not like shaming, but you do find yourself going on social media and everyone's made a banana bread and everybody's done this, and they're writing a book, or they're sewing something. And I think, you've got to be in the moment just to enjoy, just to deal with this whole journey. It doesn't matter what you do.
Well, maybe a bit more honesty might come out of it then, like Paul's saying, something to be like this, or a picture might have taken ages to. A lot of, like you're saying, social media stuff is fake. It's not real. Somebody retouches their picture to make them look like a waif when they're in fact a whale, etc., etc. So maybe a bit more honesty will come out of people. Let's hope coming out of it.
I think what I noticed about Paul's journey from Love Island, because the great thing about this collaboration of men, which is what we're bringing together over the next 10 episodes, is that we all know each other and we've all got history, and that's why it's so fantastic we can sit in this room today. Paul Knops is the same person he was before the show, and he's the same person after, and you can see that through his dialogue, through his Instagram. And when Paul joined the show, he knew what he was getting from the experience, which I found very interesting. So, like Phil says, I do think it might be good that we can get in the direction of a bit more authenticity.
Yeah,
because,
it's hard to do, because you are up against. I think as much people want you to be authentic, they want you to be like a little bit extrovert and just so much so that you can be bigger and better than the next person. But realistically, what people want is authenticity, and that to come across in the best way possible is really difficult to do. I guess I knew exactly what I was getting out of Love Island and the reasons why I did it. It was a new experience. Was I looking for love? I mean, is anyone really looking for love on there? I don't think so.
Is it really Love Island? I told you, I'm the same as Andy. It's more of a fake Love Island. My thoughts. And I only watched it the once because you were on there. I've never watched it.
So I had to put you through that.
I know.
It's a fun show, isn't it, though, Love Island? It's a very fun show. I'm not sure if it's right for where we are, but it's a fun show. Anyway, Nick, let's move this one on.
Well, I think that'll be interesting to see, their decision to not have it on this year. Obviously, it's probably a good one, but it will come back. It'll always have that appetite, I'm sure. The other thing I was thinking about, actually, while you're talking about stuff, is that I think a lot of us have probably realised is we can wear the same clothes nearly every day, and we don't have this urge to spend. We can eat great food that we've made in our houses, and I think it's going to be really interesting when we look back and we think, well, why do we want to go and get 100 outfits from fast fashion? Do we want to go and spend that much at a restaurant when actually we could have our friends around, have a great home meal and good wine? And I think that whole thing's going to change a lot. Like I said to my husband, I actually don't really want to go to a restaurant. I'd love to go to the theatre, see a show, but I don't want to buy new clothes. I don't want to buy
a worrying thing though, couldn't it? Because if more people think like this, which I'm thinking similar, it'd be nice, I'll cook a meal for somebody. They might get banana bread as a dessert, but like the rest of the country.
I think we'll have more dinner parties.
Yeah, I think so, which should be lovely, because then you are thinking more about your friends, etc., which is what hopefully this time has done, friends and family. So, but at least going out.
I have noticed some selfish, that people are using COVID-19 and this pandemic as an excuse for bad behaviour. And I've experienced that already. And when I say bad behaviour, I mean sort of people looking for angles, to make money, to skip mortgage payments, to do this, to do that. Let me tell everybody that everybody needs to be held accountable, and people need to be fully transparent, especially when you're dealing with small businesses. Because at the start of this, I had my own incident with something, and that was dealt with very, very quickly.
I've had two friends already that they were sent home like everyone else, working from home. One's a designer. She was able to work from home for the last couple of months, and then last Friday was laid off.
Yeah. Well, that's a common thing that's happening. And
so now that's going to start rolling. You can just see it.
Well, people are seeing that, left, right and centre. They've been furloughed, and then they suddenly realise actually they probably didn't need those people. I mean, I think one of the biggest issues is going to be actually offices, because people are going to realise that you can work from home just as smart, as efficiently. You haven't got your 2 hours into work or away from work. You're not spending £10 on a lunch or, going and actually they're being just as clever and working smart.
Yeah, because this is why companies are going to cut back a lot, because they don't need to pay for all that office space. But again, that's going to have, a knockback on everything else. So then the money's not being generated from the company that's renting them the property. They're not paying as much tax or VAT or whatever it is. So it's all going to spiral. So hopefully there's not, a financial crash like there was with the banks years ago. But it's obviously going to creep up and definitely not go back to normal. So financially, it's going to change a hell of a lot.
Well, what we'll have to do is resurrect our boy band that I'm looking at now, see whether we can get another hit #1 single.
Who am I, Nick?
I think you're going to have a wash. Maybe get Gary Cockrell to do your hair and maybe your highlights as well, Andy.
I want to be Mel B. If it was a girl.
Andy, at least we all came on here groomed. You actually said to me as well, before you get on here, have a nice shower, groom yourself.
You've done everything.
No, on that
and he's the only, and Andy's the one that looks least groomed.
I'm going to new caveman look, Nick. You're going to love it.
You're in Hollywood. Well, I want to say thank you guys so much for this. Lockdown Lads have been brilliant with you. It's always a pleasure to see you all. Hopefully we'll actually get to celebrate not 2 meters apart, but actually 2 centimeters apart very soon. But be safe, look after yourselves, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for watching Lockdown Lads.
Bye, guys.
much.
If you have been affected by any of the issues raised during this programme, phone the number on screen or visit www.samaritans.org.